So we finally reached our last module, Module 20 in Algebra 2. And in our last module, we want to focus on two other equations. Now you're going to say, why? Well, let's think about this. If you look at the whole course was regarding operations of different kinds of expressions. If you think back, we started out with operations of polynomial expressions, how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And then we learned how to take those expressions and make them quadratic equations and solve them. Well, then we also learned in the other modules how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational expressions and radical expressions. So in this last module, what we want to do now is look at those two other types of equations. So we're going to talk about today what is a rational equation. And it goes back to vocabulary. I love mathematics because vocabulary does not change meaning. If we talked about the word rational back in Algebra 1 and back in previous modules of Algebra 2, the word still means the same thing today. Rational implies fractions. Every time you hear the word rational, you think of a fraction. So a rational equation is an equation that contains fractions. Everybody's okay with that? So if you look at your PowerPoint, I have some examples of rational equations. The first one, x over 10 equals 48 over 15. It's an equation, it has an equal sign. It's linear because it's x to the first power, but it's rational because it has fractions. The next equation, 5/8 x plus 1 equals x minus 1/6. It's an equation, it has an equal sign. It's linear because both x's are invisible exponents of 1 to the first power, but it's rational because it has fractions. Now, there's something that you learned back in elementary school that I do not want to forget. And you've heard this word before in elementary school. You've heard the word proportion. A proportion is when you compare two quantities and set them equal to each other. And those two quantities that you're comparing are ratios. And a ratio is a fraction. So a proportion is a special type of rational equation. The equation x over 10 equals 48 over 15. It's an equation, it has an equal sign. It's still linear, it's x to the first power. But if you look, the left side is a fraction. It's one fraction, x divided by 10. The right side is one fraction, 48 divided by 15. Back in elementary school, you did not call that a rational equation. You called it a special name, proportion. So a proportion is a type of rational equation. Remember, the word rational just means fraction. And to be a proportion, you must have an equation with one fraction on the left, one fraction on the right. So a proportion is a rational equation. It's just a special type. We could not call the other equation in the PowerPoint 5/8 x plus 1 equals x minus 1/6. We cannot call that equation a proportion because it doesn't fit the pattern. It doesn't just have on the left side one fraction. It also has that constant plus 1. On the right side, it just doesn't have one fraction. It also has the variable x. So that's why that equation is not called a proportion. So in summary, a rational equation is an equation that contains fractions. However, if you just have one fraction on the left and one fraction on the right set equal to each other, we could call that a special word, a proportion. Okay, we're going to talk about how to solve these equations in the upcoming modules. See you then.